What's up? What's up? What's up?
Not much. I was just about to say let's test sound and everything. So can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, hold on.
Hi.
Hey, I'm hiding from these kids.
You're fine. We got you. You do what you gotta do. We just make sure everybody's set up that needs to be, and then sound checks and stuff like that. So next couple of minutes
Perfect.
really is just doing that, getting letting everybody do their thing. You there, Anupam? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, Blaze. Everything is ready from my end. It's working fine.
Sounds good. I'll go ahead and share this space, and then at 4:30, 7:30, we'll get started. And whatever time it is for Anupam, poor Anupam.
5 a.m. in the morning right now.
All right, found one set of headphones. Going to see if I can find the other ones. But can you guys still throw me a heart if you can still hear me okay?
Yep, can you hear you?
Yep.
I need to do that one of these times, is test out my headphones. Or maybe tomorrow. Anyway, it is showtime. So let's get started. We are excited to present a brand new segment to the Unseen Spectrum show called Holistic Health. It is going to be a monthly episode at this point where we feature different discussions surrounding exactly that, holistic health, especially since the Unseen Spectrum project as a whole is focused on building awareness for spectrum disorders as well as um, mental health and general care and individuals in the community. Without further ado, what I would like to do is introduce Blaze and then Anupam, and we'll go from there.
Hey, everybody. My name is Blaze Hirsch, and I am a registered nurse of 13 years, been in healthcare for 17 years, um, father of three, living in Rochester, New York, and I met Brittany at VCon, and I'm very passionate about Twitter and Spaces and Web3 and building community. And we all have such a great opportunity right now to encourage each other, no borders, and just the amazing ways that we can connect through technology. And when Brittany said she was holding this space, I told her I'd love to be a part of that. Um, a, for my own learning, but B, to share, some of my own knowledge, um, learning more about the Unseen project and more about everything that we're talking about, and also just like holistic and mental health. Huge, huge, huge. I've been through so many changes over the past like 5 or 6 years, and it just is very important. And there's no one size fits all because we're all going through different things. And also, just something that I always like to talk about is something called trauma informed care that we can possibly touch on a little bit later too.
For sure, you said trauma-informed care, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, beautiful. And then Anupam, obviously you are the main person working alongside me as we build out the Unseen Spectrum show and the project. However, for the sake of this segment, especially it being the first one, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, I'm Anupam, based in India. I am working with Whitney on the Unseen Spectrum project. It has always excited me, the idea that is behind this. Brittany wanted something to do with autism and talking about holistic health and all those things. So it was pretty interesting, and that's why I jumped into it. And yeah, I take care of the technical aspect of it. I manage the recordings as well as send it over to Brittany, and then we manage putting it onto the blog and YouTube. So it is there forever, and people can listen to it whenever they want to. And this is our first show on the first episode of the Holistic Health, which will be a monthly show as of now. That's from me from India at 5 a.m. in the morning.
We truly appreciate it, especially myself. I was explaining to some friends that you're essentially, my main D Rock, which is obviously a Gary V reference. But it's the people that are that right hand person always there, and continuing to grow side by side, and that's exciting. So
It's a great
it's
reference.
really appreciated. It's usually a good explanation in the Gary V world of who is this? It's by D Rock. Um, yeah, and so I guess for myself, to give a little bit of an introduction, I'm Brittany Moss. I'm originally from Buffalo, so it's great to be connecting with more Rochester and Buffalo and New York peeps.
Hey, go Bills.
Exactly. I mean, I love some Jets. However, I would say it's more nostalgia as far as like I have family that's still in New York and that area of the world. So there were plenty of, family trips, one either to Buffalo or to Long Island, where it was surrounding a Bills Jets game. Not kidding. Obviously, our family, our side was rooting for the Bills, and then the ones from still living in the city were rooting for the Jets. But like that to me was the enjoyable aspect, and I feel like the Jets are still there, and I'm supportive and hope they win as long as the Bills aren't involved, or whatever. But yeah, so Bills, Wings, all of that. I'm living on the West Coast now, so as far as timing, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon for me, which I would say I probably have the best deal here, especially compared to Anupam. And I do have, essentially, in my family, there's autism it's basically generational autism at this point. And for me, in my background, I never knew that there was this potential for me until later in life. I would say probably my very late teens, possibly like 1920, was when I kind of found out that there had been concerns as a child. And our pediatrician wanted testing, but our parents were afraid and didn't really want to, because we could communicate and function and things, while maybe odd, to them. And since it's generational, it probably seemed relatively normal. So they were like, we're good. However, as time has gone on, various parents and family friends that I've connected with that either have autism, ADHD, other spectrum disorders, have commented multiple times that they can either tell I'm autistic or tell this or tell that, or that I remind them of their children, basically because, there's similar stuff. So that's basically one of the aspects of why the unseen spectrum came about. And I feel like we want more discussions on holistic health and alternatives. And, Blaze, I'm forever grateful that we met in person at VCon and were able to discuss what was going on. I believe we met because we were volunteering, if I remember correctly.
100%.
And it was still kind of a random encounter where it was like, oh, you're so and so and you're so and so, and it was great because was it over coffee? And I had to like, I think that was the issue, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, because I need more coffee in my life every day,
Exactly.
um, every moment. And I was trying to find the coffee, and I actually, because I didn't know anyone going to VCon, so I applied to volunteer, and I think there's a lot of people that applied that like they still didn't get in, but I was so thankful to get to volunteer because I knew zero people going to VCon, and now I'm building these relationships through Twitter and Spaces and some Web3 stuff. Um, and so I think we got to talking one day because I was in the museum a couple of days, and just hearing your story and touching on like some of the things that you're working on, and like so I'm a registered nurse, so I'm in such like a weird thing where I'm actually like the minority in my work in my field, being male and a nurse.
Yep.
And so I've all diversity is something that's very important to me because it's like the more diverse any system is, it's like a beautiful mosaic. Whereas like if everything's the same, it's not good for the group. Um, and so when you said that you were starting this spaces, like who else is talking about the topic you're talking about in regards to like autism or anything like that, but also like being female, not me but you, and like running your own spaces, like I think that's huge. So I think that's like a double whammy right there of yeah, I'd love to be a part of that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I agree. It's funny because even with diversity, you bring that up, especially male versus woman, female. A couple things. One, part of my background, my mom was in the medical field for most of her career, at least from what I remember. Like, I was one of those kids that my daycare was in the basement of a hospital. Um, and so she has this love, still has, but I would say more so, younger on that, in the medical world. And she wanted to become a nurse. She had actually started studying that, and then health issues took over. And so, unfortunately, she didn't. However, I still have a love for the medical field and where healthcare is heading. So that's why too, when we started getting to talk, because I was kind of in the same shoes, partly why I volunteered was I didn't really know anyone. I'd started connecting online. It's still a little different to know people specifically. So that way you can kind of hang out and enjoy a group thing at something like VCon, you know. But I think what was most interesting for me was your interest in holistic health and broadening awareness and diversity, opening up more channels of discussion and making people feel more comfortable. And then how a little bit later, I think the same day, I was able to hear Deepak's um, like basically his viewpoints on the future of healthcare, and he didn't discuss Web3 and blockchain and everything. However, we all know that as technology develops, there's going to be some aspect of healthcare that's probably on it. And, he relayed information about how, if we view our brains as computers and we recognize whatever universal thing is out there in our viewpoints of it, it doesn't matter one way or the other as far as beliefs go. He pointed out more that we're connected no matter what, simply because we are all human beings. We're all connected one way or the other, you know? And so, like, it just was so fascinating. I think I ended up messaging you and saying, yeah, like, you're on the right track. And this doctor, professional Hindu with a major spiritual connection and background is legitimately telling an audience that healthcare is changing and eventually will be able to, in some cases, and if not all cases, find ways to heal ourselves through alternative care and not just rely on common things like medicine and the normal prescriptions and things like that. Obviously they play a role in healthcare, and he even touched on that. However, he wants people to understand that we can do so much more for ourselves and our families if we learn to engage with ourselves and these, that computer illustration and one another and have these discussions. So that kind of led to me thinking about how could I build this into the Unseen Spectrum show project, and I'm grateful you decided to be part of that and continue building out that diversity, because I know that men are rare in the nursing world.
Thank you. And what you had me think, and I was so upset that I missed his talk, but I love being in the museum because I got to meet like so many like V friends, and it was a lot of fun. But um, I never got to like go back and like read his notes or see what people are saying about him. So I'm so thankful that I just got to hear you kind of like give that synopsis, and it's just like hitting on all the right points. Um, there's a lot going on in the news right now. It's just like not just with like hospitals being understaffed with nurses, but the world continues to be understaffed. And so like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was saying that there's 10,000 baby boomers that are retiring every single day. And so that just makes me think how we can do whatever we want to do, whatever we want to get into, we can do that. You want to be this, that, or the other. There's that opportunity, but it also means that some of these unattractive professions that we don't even know where we rely on, they might not exist 5 or 10 years from now. And that's where a lot more opportunity for disruption and innovation will occur. And especially in healthcare, because just like going back to shortages and not having enough people, and like historically, we're probably one of the most isolated generations. Whereas we go to work, come home, oh, we should just care for ourselves or just care for our families. When really we've gotten away from that like colonial village type living, and I'm really excited to see like how can I incorporate that more, and how will other people embrace that kind of thinking.
It's kind of funny that you brought that up, because I can't remember what space I was in, but I was listening to someone explain that. Maybe it was like Kingfisher Media, one of along those lines, but they were just discussing how right now we are more connected than ever. At the same time, there's this disconnect because, yeah, like the the normal activities that used to be there are gone. Maybe it was Gary. I don't know. Whatever the case, that was a discussion that is a discussion that's happening. And I feel like that's kind of how, part of this project, the Unseen Spectrum project, is working toward community building in projects and stuff like that, simply because I feel like we are coming into this age where we'll kind of come back around. I feel like with COVID especially, that definitely caused people to isolate way more. Even myself, I still am getting back to different aspects of my life with interactions and things. And, I think this is probably a good transition into our main discussion, which is the self-care journeys, and kind of just opening up those points. But Gary talks a lot about that as time goes on, there may be global events and things that people get excited about, kind of like the Super Bowl, but on a global basis. I know things happen in like the soccer world where populations get excited, especially during certain tournaments and stuff. And that's kind of, I think, the discussion, and how as more projects take place, as technology develops, there's going to be ways to meet in various mediums. Like right now, we can either meet in person, we can talk on a phone call, we can do video chats, we can do text, stuff like that. Imagine when we were talking with Web3 Fitty last week, and Grandpapa about the metaverse. Imagine a scenario where people can go into the metaverse and go to their doctor visit and get a complete physical without necessarily having to be present, depending on what technology is developed. We don't really know yet because we're only scratching the surface, but at the same time, there needs to be some sort of balancing act where we do meet publicly and in person, not just for events like VCon, but um, local community things too, at least in my viewpoint.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Um, there's one thing for kids there, 6, 5, and 2, and everyone has had the hearts, just with COVID and everything, and meeting his milestones. Didn't lose his baby for his third birthday. The kids, it's 3. Um, like he's potty trained 2.5 and 3.5. Then potty trained until like the day of his first birthday, and had to go to speech occupational therapy. And you know, it's hard to say like what variables played into the other and why he did that and continues to need that. But I think a large part of it is like being isolated through COVID and not getting the same as experience and be around people. Um, and not getting political or anything like that, but like it's just a fact that lots of people were wearing masks whenever you went out in public, and not getting to see people like talk or move their mouths. I'm always like, did that play a part in it? What a little off tangent there, but just going back to like we don't know. Oh, yeah, I know the whole thing about this was like kids these days communicate more through text, Discord, and electronically than we ever did. Because I didn't get my first cell phone until maybe I was like 14 years old, or 12. Now kids are getting their first stuff like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I think now like so much more actions are digital or meeting in person or even on the phone. And I think that a lot of kids feel more comfortable talking digitally than they do in person, and I get drawn a lot to Gentle Tornado's doing with his foundation he's starting and help kids. Um, we have to meet in person, and we have to be like stewards and mentors and be by example for the future. People will just be behind computers, and not saying like it's bad because we just talked about all the great things that can happen from that, but it's also like a lot easier to like to hide behind like vile words and say rude and mean things to people anonymously, and you never know like how deep those people can take those things, which is horrible.
Agreed. There's a lot of aspects that are changing with communication. I sometimes envision Wally and hope that we're not somehow heading there. Um,
Hmm.
but, it's interesting that you said Discord and how kids are using that to communicate. And it's funny because um, I work in the I'm working as a moderator of the First in Line community. I think that's one of the ways that we've connected Blaze as well. Um, and that's all,
Love First in Line.
me too. And we have some exciting things coming up. We just put out some information, and not too much, but starting to put out some more information about upcoming things with the team, which is exciting. Um, but, it's interesting that this morning, when I shared a little bit of an update in the chats, one of the members mentioned wanting to know more about card collecting and specifically VFriends. And it happened to be right when their show was starting for the Nationals. And so I was like, hey, well, it's perfect timing. Here's the Twitter space. And they were like, oh, I don't have Twitter. Okay. Well, I was like, they started asking a couple questions, and it's hard. My knowledge is not very big in cards in general or in the VFriends cards. It's just getting started. And so we know, though, that a big connection point for VFriends is Discord. So I said, well, we'd also recommend the VFriends Discord. They're like, what's that? And I was like, well, do you mean the channel or Discord? So I asked them specifically, are you familiar with the app? No. And this is an adult.
Yep.
But, like, that's kind of how there's this big, huge canyon between people that are using that technology and people that aren't. And we're trying to figure out ways to bridge that education and stuff. I something like that for Be First in Line, at least I have people that I can send that information over to, which has been done or started, and to help with that,
Mm-hmm.
However, outside of just that one community, there's so many more online and locally. And just because someone is online and has a website and could even be a major business owner does not mean that they have anything to do with Web3 or even Web4 at this point. And that's a little terrifying considering we have kids who are already using Discord and major technology, and and how do we bridge that gap safely?
It was the crazy thing. We moved from Boston in September, and I was at the playground one day, and I found like some note on the ground, and I guess it was probably to some 12-year-old, another 12-year-old, and they were talking about like it was like, hey, sorry if you were offended by me making fun of your shoes in the Discord. I was just joking around. Can you unblock me? Really sorry. And it said some like kid's name or something like that. And I was like, because when I was growing up, it was like instant messenger. But, you know, kids are always going to find different ways to communicate. And then parents have like no idea about it, which I think that's part of growing up and part of being a kid, different things. But it's just like, it was bonkers to me. But also, I think that it helps and it hurts and hinders like the Web3 community because people are already um, guarded from like scams and stuff. And like, I know like people that are way smarter than me that have like clicked on the wrong link or plugged in the wrong information and lost like an NFT or even their whole wallet. Um, but with the NFT world, like trying to get new people in, there's a nurse that I was talking to that is doing this project called the Huddle DAO, and she's just really trying to create this DAO for nurses. It's not on OpenSea though; it's on a different blockchain um, that doesn't link to the OpenSea market. Um, but just like trying to tell nurses, we had a longer discussion one day about how can we get more people onboarded into Web3 professionally. And I think the hypothesis that we came up with was how many nurses aren't on LinkedIn, and would the first step be, hey, let's get all these nurses and as a building block to get the web.
Yeah, I think that's a solid idea, and some of it is going to need to be incremental. And then, it's going to be interesting to see because I've been having discussions a little bit with people who choose not to be on social
Can't
media.
hear anything.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. That's weird. I've been having like audio issues, but I feel like it's on my end. It's hard. It's really warm here today. It's over 100. And when that happens, the connections around here get really crappy because of the heat. Like, they're already not great in this area, so I think that's part of it. So I apologize if there's anything on my end that comes up. Just let me know, and we'll try to figure things out if needed. But with that onboarding aspect, part of it, professionally speaking, the blockchain, Web3, Web4, in Web4, that is the arena of AI technology and advancement and other technologies. And then Web3 is obviously, crypto and things like NFTs and OpenSea and so on. And the issue is going to become if those that don't keep up with the technology, professionally speaking, could end up being a little bit behind because, as say, for example, certain hospitals start to advance and utilize blockchain in their systems and some don't. Well, the ones that do are likely going to get more funding and grow. And that probably means those who learn the technology professionally will also have better salaries and stuff like that because they can work at the hospitals that are keeping up and stuff. And this is just a hypothetical and a reference point for why professionally, especially in the medical field, um, they we want to be doing that more because that will be part of the education as time goes on. However, we all know education is also behind. And so even what's going on in one hospital in one country may not be in the education system or being taught anywhere at that point, So if people aren't willing to learn how to use the technology, even if it's personal, for a while, and then they see how they can engage with it and use it in their profession, they need to be willing to do that. Otherwise, they could find themselves being less um, a lower pay simply because there won't be a need for it, and that's unfortunate. Like, it's going to get to a point where people have to have a basic understanding of technology. Like, even where I work, we do nothing. We have nothing to do with taking care of people on a physical level of any kind. And I can tell you that people that have attempted to work there, if their tech knowledge is too limited, they end up not being the right fit for the company because part of the roles there requires them being able to easily navigate the internet and use certain software and stuff. And even if you don't know that software, if you're coming in and can't even type, um, that's going to be a serious issue. And the scary part is what I've seen here in Nevada, which we're number 50 in the nation's education system, at least
Really? I
public
didn't know that.
schools. Yeah, I didn't know that until moving here, getting to know people. And the one time I was looking at it with a friend who has a daughter, and we found this. There's multiple reports and things that are put out about the education system on a national level, and so we found the latest report at that time, and we were number 50. And I came from New York State, where we weren't, we were in the top 10. I think we slid down. New York has slid down a little bit, but number 50. And when you look back over like the last 5 to 10 years, it hasn't changed much. It's been kind of 45 to 50, which is pretty terrifying. Um, but it helps me understand that canyon more so, because some people, partly why they don't know about Discord and stuff like that, or LinkedIn even, is because they don't even know how to type.
Yep.
Like, they didn't have those classes in school. I did. I'm fortunate. I mean, between my mom and those classes, I knew how to learn how to type and stuff like that by a very early age. Um, so anyway, I think that's part of that process. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's something I've been kind of thinking about too with the professional aspects, medical and other industries.
Absolutely. They talk about like the digital divide with older people and younger people, and how as new technology comes out, it almost puts sometimes the older generations at a bigger advantage. Like, there's some people that don't have cell phones. There's some people that don't have the internet, and thinking like, how could people possibly live that way is like bonkers.
I mean, I love to go like on vacation, unplug and stuff like that, but like just not having this access to this like unlimited amount of information um, is just wild. But also, there's the digital divide where we're talking about education. Some people don't have access to that, and so um, it really limits what. And I never want to say that like it, just a hard topic to talk about because you don't. I want everyone to be successful and be awesome, but if you haven't been taught how to do something, unless you're ever exposed or have this access to that knowledge, like it'll never be unlocked for you. Um, and there's some people that still not even like finishing high school. I mean, I only became a nurse because I was playing pool when I was 16, and someone said I should think about it. And so that's one thing I'm very passionate about is letting people know that male, female, or anybody else can be a nurse. And I think exposing people to that. But I think and it's our job to have spaces like this and talk about it and go out in the community and build people up because some people, you never know, like the power of your words and the power of a conversation that you might have with someone.
I think one of the discussions we could have in the future, whether it's part of this segment or just a general one, would be kind of the history as far as why there is such a divide between male and female nurses and stuff. And I think that really falls back to that historical viewpoint that women were the nurses traditionally, men were the doctors and the surgeons
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Um, but I feel like that's probably a discussion in itself.
That would be we probably need more nurses. I don't know if I could ever get my wife on because it's really funny because we have like such like an interesting like role reversal relationship. Like she's the physician and I'm the nurse, um, which is I think awesome. And
I think so too. To be honest, it's neat because you're right. Like it shouldn't matter, and yeah, there's a difference in the career and stuff. But at the same time, like why are we acting as if that matters at this point in time?
mm-hmm.
Like really, what does it matter that what someone is doing? If they're passionate about what they do in their profession in their life, and it's legal and healthy, whatever. Why? What's the issue here?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get past it.
100%.
I feel like that's probably part of a healing that mankind needs to do on a whole. There's stuff we can do as individuals to take care of ourselves, our families, our friends. And I want to start kind of going into aspects that maybe each of us can list, 3 or 4 items that we practice as part of our self-care journey at this point. But I also want to make sure we continue to open up that conversation as time goes on for delving into different aspects of healthcare along with the holistic care for ourselves too. So let's put it to you, Blaze, first. List off, like I said, 3 to 4 things that are part of your journey and how you take care of yourself, and then we'll throw it over to Anupam.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, there's lots of stuff that I work on, but um, so I always tell like so a little bit about me. Like I'm in my 6th or 7th position professionally in the past like 5 years because we moved around a lot for my wife. So I was a nurse in Cleveland, Ohio. Then I was a nurse in Columbus, Ohio. Then we moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and we just moved to Rochester, New York last year. So I've mostly been in nursing leadership positions through all this time. And what I always tell like everyone that I work with is, for me, my priorities are God, family, work. I never put work above those things, but I care very deeply about the work that I do. And so I'm always trying to monitor myself. Am I putting work above those two things? And that's I think one thing that like I love about like be friends and listen to Gary talk. And it's like, we want work to be fun. We want you to be passionate about it. But he's like, still at the end of the day, like, you got to take care of yourself and your family. And I think he talks about seasons sometimes too, where, you might have to like really like be working like hard for like months, days, and years sometimes to achieve the goal that you want. And sometimes you have to make these sacrifices. Um, but I love that he's always talking about like, even if you're listening to like the card stuff today, he was like, "Gotta go, family. See you guys later." So I'm always trying to like recenter myself to see like what my priorities are. Um, so probably number one, just like being that part of my like daily, weekly, sometimes daily, just my affirmations of just thinking about what's most important to me. Um, and then and that's like more macro, but looking like it on a more micro level, um, meditating has been something that I've really built over the past year. And just being a nurse leader right now and like the nursing crisis, like staffing has been very difficult. So I'm always thinking like, is my staff supported? Do they have everything that they need? And it can be like overwhelming sometimes. And I remember waking up like in the middle of the night and like not being able to go back to bed, or as soon as I wake up, like just being filled with all the anxiety, not knowing what I was going to walk into. And so I haven't been great on it because I've been doing a little bit better. But what I've really been trying to do is like, as soon as I wake up every single morning, I put my headphones on and I listen to a 5-minute meditation just to really like focus on myself, focus on my family, and what is it that I need for myself in that day. Um, I think, and this just sounds silly, like I was in some podcast or TikTok a while ago when Kim and Kanye were still together, and like Kanye called Kim out and was like, um, why is the first thing you wake up and do every morning is your phone? Why don't you get up and do something else first? And I probably like completely butchered that, but when I wake up in the morning, I want to think about my family first. I don't want to get up in the morning and think about work first. And so that's a way for me to like really like turn towards that. And it has brought me a lot more joy. Cause I work's a part of my life and like, I love doing it and everything like that. But, I'm not, I believe that I'm not on this earth to like work. I'm on this earth to like interact and provide for my family. And I do care very deeply about the work that I do. And I do care everybody that I work with. I care about the mission that I'm doing. But like, if I didn't have my family, I wouldn't have anything. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's absolutely awesome. I appreciate what you brought out. Before we continue to discuss those, Anupam, what are your 3 or 4 things that you focus on to help you take care of yourself?
Like, I completely agree with what Blaze said. Family comes first, health, and then comes work. Because that is what we live for, our family. See, living alone and just thinking about
It might just
ourselves
be me,
and
but I can't hear you, Anupam.
yeah, is it fine now? Can you hear me? And just
I can hear him sometimes since we're all in 3 different areas and some of the spaces I'm in, like some people can hear and some can't. I can. Sometimes I have to like switch
Okay.
Wi-Fi or come in and
okay.
out.
Now,
Yep,
now is it
that's
okay?
basically, I'll do that on my end. I just wanted to make sure that at least someone can hear him because that means the
I'll
recording
I'll
is still
also
going and we don't need to
I'll
stop or
also
do anything.
Sounds good.
I'll just switch my Wi-Fi connection so that maybe it will work better. One sec, please. Yeah, yeah.
I think I can hear you. I
Okay,
can hear you.
I think Brittany is not. I'll just what she asked me is, see, I value family a lot. That is very important for me because at the end of the day, that is what matters. Health is important, family is important. That's what we live for, and that's what we try to do. Because just thinking about ourselves and doing the best for ourselves as an individual is quite easy, and but there's no direction left. Like at the end of the day, at the end of the month, what is it that we are gaining? Okay, we are doing something for the society. That's all good, but then you need to have a presence of your own that comes from family. So it's very important for me also. Regarding my personal approach towards health is I used to be I used to be doing meditation and all. I was very good at it, but somehow I have been very consistent on it, and I'm trying to get a hold of it again and be better at it. But these days I'm not doing it all that perfectly, but I'll try to start doing it again. That's what my approach has been on this. Brittany, are you there? Can you hear me? I
I can hear you.
no, I think Brittany.
I still
Okay,
can't hear Anupam. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good. So I didn't hear a single thing that Anupam said. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's continuing to go, so it's
Yeah.
fine if you guys can hear him though, and everything.
I know Pup was talking about we building a little bit of what I was talking about, like family, um, and also talking about how meditation has helped him in the past, but not as much right now. But possibly getting back into it. Did I say that right, Anu Pup?
exactly,
Awesome.
exactly, perfect.
Okay. I mean, Anupam and I have discussions about that regularly where comes first, and it's really important to have that balance. Even if part of why we push so hard and work so hard is our family, like you were saying too, Blaze, at the end of the day, family is why we're doing what we do and things. So we need to make sure we're all taken care of. Um, for me, what I'm learning more and more is taking the time to take care of myself. I don't have a significant other. I don't have kids. My family lives in other areas, and so I'm learning to make sure I'm taking time to communicate with them and coordinate and stuff like that. But at the same time, I have PTSD. I have my spectrum shit, so learning to actually know when to pull back and relax or go to bed early, sleep in. For example, this morning I didn't set an alarm just to allow myself to wake up when I was ready to wake up. And so I would say I agree that family and recognizing that we ourselves and our family members, our people, our friends matter more than anything that we're working towards. So if we need to take care of what we need to take care of, and no need to apologize for it. There shouldn't be. Um, and then other aspects, one thing I would say recently that I've been doing is setting some weight loss goals and exercising more. I recently started commuting on my bicycle. So for that, I don't have a vehicle at this point. I decided to sell it after a few weeks of testing and I enjoyed it. But for me, I hate gyms. I have never liked them from even as a child. So for me, finding ways to build exercise into my life is really important. And so that's why I kind of thought about trying it out and just seeing. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. Like, there's been some interesting moments, and the heat kind of sucks with things and everything. But at the same time, I'm working out more. I'm moving, and I feel better and stuff. And I'm doing that more and more and more. Kind of like you were saying with the meditation and just doing that routine, which I appreciate that you said that, Blaze, because for me, I want to figure out a good routine in the morning to just get started. I find that I go to bed at night with full plans of getting up around 5 or 6 a.m. And then that time comes and I could go to bed early, but I still that moment comes and I make excuses in my mind and go back to sleep for a little bit. Um, it's gotten better with time. But, I feel like having those routines, that's that kind of third aspect for me, I would say, is me building routines more and that consistency in my own life. Things like education and teaching myself, learning, getting more familiar with the blockchain, meeting people like Thomas and people in the community, and learning different projects and all that shit. Um, and just engaging and being curious, and stuff like that. I would say those are the three aspects. Some are similar to you guys, and we all have our own things, which is exactly the point of that self-care idea. And if you're able to, if you want to jump up, basically we're talking about like 3 or 4 areas where we practice self-care and how that's kind of helping us, if you want, but it's not a requirement of any kind.
I just want to comment on what you were talking about, Brittany. I'm like, Brittany's doing the same stuff that I'm dealing with, and because I recently, or some parallels, um, I did CrossFit for a really long time, so I'm kind of the opposite. Where like, because before I met my wife, and I was trying to figure out like my own like mental health stuff. Like, I didn't, instead of like going out and trying to like stop drinking so much, I just like started spending all my time in the gym, just because I thought you're not taking shots at the gym. And so like that helped me out a lot, and it's something I got away from through COVID, but I just started trying to get back into it again. But I forgot that like it's really hard to plan anything with like 3 kids. And so I've been trying to get up every morning at like 4:30 a.m. to go to these 5 a.m. classes, and I'm always hitting snooze. I think I hit one a week, but there's other times I can go. So my goal is to go physically 3 days a week and then do some stuff at home. But also like that bicycle thing is like absolutely awesome. That's something that I've always wanted to like roll the dice on. When I was a nurse for 4 or 5 years in Cleveland, I walked to work every morning, and I didn't have to pay for gas or for parking, or I mean, I still had a vehicle, but like I put like $5,000, 5,000 miles a year on it, just like driving on like trips or to visit my parents. So that is like, but like selling your car, that's like you made me anxious like thinking about that. But that's like I think that's like absolutely awesome. So good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny because for me, I've been kind of on this financial journey for myself this past year where I kind of got a little stubborn with myself and with what I expect in my standards. Um, it's been a lot of accountability practice, not just financially, but also what I'm willing and not willing to accept and do. Especially, I don't know if you caught at VCon Jesse Itzler's speech about and his point about changing our relationship with money. And one of the stories he related was how he needed funding and he was offered a deal for $10,000 for something. And ultimately, even though he needed the money at the time, he said no to it because it wasn't in his best interest in the long term. And so he recognized that just because the money was in front of him, it didn't mean he needed to take it. And that's kind of where I got to with some of my um, career aspects. The sales life is tough. I've been reading up on like Zig Ziglar, and one of his chapters is about approaching sales and business with love. And part of that is because it is such a tough industry to be in, and the toughest quality is love. And part of that is being good with yourself. Um, and so I've been really focusing a lot of that and recognizing, yeah, it would be nice if I was making more. However, what would I be doing in order to accomplish that at this point? And recognizing that there's so many other opportunities out there, even if I have to wait a little bit, I don't really care. Um, and in this time, even though nothing has changed necessarily, financially on my end, besides a role change, um, I've still been reducing expenses. Like for me, my truck got to a point where it didn't make sense for me to continue to fix it, and it became a liability. I come from some experience in the automotive world. If I had tools and a space to fix it, maybe I would have kept it. Ultimately, though, I don't. So, why keep something on that it wasn't worth for me to fix, was causing stress? Like you're saying, there's, all the costs of everything. And so at this point, yeah, I didn't decrease my financial capacity by any kind at this point. However, I increased my ability to control my financial expenses and at the same time work out more and take care of myself and think life differently by reducing my personal footprint and being strategic. When I do buy a vehicle again, what am I going to get and how will be the questions, rather than rushing into something like I did in the past when I needed it. But at the same time, I knew it would only last for so long, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Because I think we're hitting a lot on a lot of the same things, um, financial health, physical health, emotional health, and it's all that, like approaching these things holistically, and it makes up the whole person and having like the right attitude. Um, and it's hard because I feel like as soon as I focus on one thing, I lose focus on something else. Um, but here for the journey.
Exactly. And that's the process. I don't know your background with different things, but I feel like we're kind of at this point in time where a lot of us are recovering from something, even COVID. We discussed that a little bit earlier. Technically speaking, we're still recovering, and in a lot of ways. I mean, you touched on the staffing shortages and everything, not just in the medical field, but just in general. And you're not wrong. There's been multiple um, conversations that I have had, online and offline, where businesses, part of what their struggle is to expand and accomplish what they need to is staff. And there's this weird flux space between either generational gaps, health issues, different aspects, people who got so used to not working during COVID that I mean I had met several people, especially in the past, that they were collecting unemployment for so long that when it stopped, they didn't get jobs. They just continued to like live off of other people and with other people, and weird scenarios where you're just like, what do you do? And then at the same time, like you mentioned, there's that uh, people want exciting and fun and everything. But there's serious sectors that need staffing, and how does that take place with funding limits? I mean, um, in some of the work I do, I'm able to kind of see where states are at with tax things and stuff, and a lot of them are crying for money, crying for it. So it just, there's so much going on, and where we can find the balance, I think, is in having these discussions and taking care of ourselves. And like you said, it's not just about the physical, it's financial health, mental health, spiritual health, all of it, taking care of our families, finding that balance, knowing when to pull back, but at the same time, not falling behind. It's very interesting times we're heading into.
Um, yeah, I have no idea what opportunities are going to be available, what isn't going to be available, but listening to you talk and just some of the things that the conversations I've had over the past year, and just like touching on what I did earlier, just like the 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, like there's so much opportunity for people to break off and do their own thing and provide a service, because people can't fulfill the services that they normally would, so they're going to have to contract out and see how to get these done differently. And a lot of there's a lot of things that won't even be around probably 10, 20, 30 years from now because of the labor market right now. And going back to, I think I loved what you said about like we're all recovering from something. I know my last couple of jobs, money's been a big part of that. Luckily, my wife and I are in a situation right now. I love my job right now, but I'm actually switching jobs and taking a little bit of pay cut to go teach nursing school in actually 2 weeks, just because I'm living this every single day where we don't have enough nurses and they don't have enough nursing instructors, and how better for me to help solve that problem than teach the workforce of tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. And I think it's a great thing to share at the end too.
Yeah, that is very exciting. I'm happy for you in that career point for becoming an instructor, but also that you recognize the fact that you've been in multiple leadership roles, which means that you know how to lead clinical students and students in the classroom and stuff like that. And you're concerned about their well-being as well as your team's well-being, which is really important. I know for me, partly why I didn't complete nursing was me staring down a pretty hard career, depending on which routes. Like for me, I was kind of interested in trauma. Unfortunately, I recognize that led me down a path where like I struggled
That's
to
tough.
disconnect. Yeah, and like I've always struggled to disconnect emotionally with stuff. So for me, I kind of saw like this life path that my mom wanted me to become a nurse because that's, it was kind of that safe career as well as what she enjoyed and everything. But for me, I saw this path that like I couldn't see myself in it forever. And so I walked away. Part of it, though, was a bad clinical experience that I won't discuss this time around or anything. But
Oh, we'll
like,
have to touch base because as I'm going
yeah,
into this, I would love to know.
yeah,
No,
I would say like privately, I'd be happy to talk about it maybe more
100%.
in the future. But there was a key day that I walked away and said, nope. Um,
And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, people don't necessarily understand that part of nursing, especially, is that you have to see the extreme situations you can be in order to really know what's where you're heading. And that's basically part of that educational aspect and also taking care of one another. But um, yeah, that's a big point. And basically, I'm looking forward to hearing more as you get into that. Whatever you can discuss here and stuff like that, whatever is totally fine.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So, we want to start to wind things down. Um, it's up to you, Blaze. I know you mentioned doing a takeaway and basically a little bit of a homework assignment. I would kind of like to do that first, and then at the end, I want to kind of just announce basically the plans for the next episode and a little bit around the homework assignment and stuff. But we could do it the other way around if you wanted to as well, where I explain um, that, and then we get into what we were planning for the last few minutes, basically.
Yeah, I know we talked about challenging each other and people to try and meditate, even like for 5 minutes a day. But also, I think that like being the first spaces here, I think I love just hearing like your story and about what you have planned with Unseen Spectrum, but also like through this space. And so I know me myself, I think my big homework is I want to understand autism and the different spectrums a little bit more. So and I know this is putting you on the spot, but do you have any websites or anything that you could pin or share that might be like good just to like look over, or a podcast or a YouTube video? Because I think I'd love to like try and like dive into that a little bit more.
I've done some research in the past and stuff like that. I don't know what I have readily available. However, that could be part of kind of what we do coming into next month, is just learning a little bit more, sharing what we have and everything. Because I agree, like for me, I know that I've used quite a number of more medical resources at this point. I'm really careful about where I go online for stuff about spectrum disorders and things, because if it's not a medical site, it's not necessarily true or accurate, and stuff. So I won't necessarily pin anything up now, but perhaps we can kind of coordinate on that and then be able to present some more information, and ideas about it for part of next month's episode.
Love it.
Sounds good to me. And then the plan will be the meditation will be that next one. Because for me, I think my practice is going to be the meditation stuff, just to continue, start gearing up for it. But I do have a busy couple of weeks coming up with the Chicago show, the card show coming up. And then
Are you
doing
going?
that. Yes, I am
Oh, I'm
going.
jealous. I was gonna try and fly for a day.
I
I don't
mean,
think I can spin it.
that would be quite the feat, but if you can do it at the
Yeah.
same time, if you can't, don't worry about it. I know that there's going to be some really cool stuff, and people are making arrangements for each other and things with different merch and stuff too, so that's a thing. Just kind of keep an eye out for friends sharing stuff and everything, and I know people are saying, hey, can you give me stickers, can you give me this and everything, so
I
whatever.
need one of those pins, those spinny pins. Those are so cool.
Aren't they? Yeah, so I'll keep an eye out. They did mention that there's going to be buy-in limits and stuff, so we'll see what happens. But one way or the other, the nice thing is I'm not alone. So there's going to be like 3 basically in my group going.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're super pumped. I'm excited because, like, financially speaking, for me the trip is about learning more about my e-commerce company and a new investment stream, basically, and revenue stream for um, reselling and trading and learning about arbitrage more and stuff like that, what they discussed in the space and some different ideas. So I'm super pumped about that. Um, as far as announcements and stuff, I would say basically for this segment of the show, we are going to be having those monthly challenges along with the monthly theme and episode. I would say for this time around, we really won't do much of a community one. However, come next month, we'll start adding aspects where when people share types of what they're working on and stuff, they can go ahead and tag us in different things and kind of share on that probably month by month. And who knows what it'll turn into. And then for next month, I will announce the theme. It will likely be around spectrum disorders and just a general conversation on what we've all learned and put together throughout the month. And who knows what else at this point, but I feel like this was an exciting episode. The beautiful thing, like Anupam mentioned at the beginning, is that we make arrangements to save these recordings and put them up on other platforms, because the Twitter spaces do only last for 30 days in the recording. And that's unfortunate, but I understand. They're not YouTube. YouTube is
I didn't know that. I didn't know they only stayed around for 30 days.
Yeah, it's a storage thing. I mean, these files get pretty big, and when you think about how many spaces are going on, and sometimes people will have spaces for 24 hours, can you imagine how much data that is?
That's crazy.
yeah. So that's why Anupam, we figured out a way to live record, so that way we get things up on YouTube now. I generally share recap articles with that, and then just continuing to build things out with presenting the recordings and different playing around with different content and stuff. We'll just say. So I think that's everything for the holistic health segment. Tomorrow will be our normal episode routine, and we do not actually have a guest, which is kind of exciting for once this month. We had a lot of guests this month, and it was an amazing time. I mean, legit, we pushed some levels. Anupam has gone to extra depths and things with his help. It's been fantastic. So tomorrow, our main theme will be just a topic discussing step or stumble and how all of us work through overcoming various stones or obstacles, or how we can actually grow from something rather than it necessarily blocking us in different things. So that should be a fun discussion. And we'll probably have more announcements at that point, but I figure I want the main brunt of that to be in the normal show, and the main focus on the announcements part of the show for the holistic health to be on this segment specifically as much as possible.
Love it. And thanks for hosting and thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you very, very much for being part of this and continuing to build out the health aspect of Unseen Spectrum. We don't know where it will go, but I already have some ideas as I'm able to actually build out the structure organizationally. It's just going to take some time on that end because the Unseen Spectrum is a nonprofit. And that actually does take a little bit to get established correctly. So, just bear with me as we continue to get stuff going. But this show is a huge part of just taking that first step and starting to put together a community built upon just focusing on one another and that unseen spectrum, whether it is spectrum disorders, mental health awareness, and things beyond the unknown that we can't necessarily see, like music or space. We've talked about aliens and stuff. So super excited to have this part officially established. And I truly look forward to the next one and where we head with this part of the project. Thank you so much. Anupam, go ahead, Blaze.
I was just going to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you a
Thank you.
lot. Can you hear me this
Anupam,
time?
if you have anything to say, even if I can't hear you, go ahead
I
and
think I think she
we'll
can't hear
wrap
me.
things up.
Uh,
Blaze, if you can, once he's done. If I can't hear, I'm just,
yeah,
throw an
it was an
emoji.
exciting session, and Blaze, thanks a lot for being here. In the coming episodes, maybe we'll have more discussions with you regarding holistic health, apart from meditation, other aspects that we can focus on and learn more about it. So it was a great session, and see you in the future. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think you'll have to confirm, Brittany, that I've done speaking.
Oh, yeah, he's done.
All right. Thank you. All right. You guys have a wonderful day, rest of your evening, Blaze. Thank you, anyone that did come in and out. And Anupam, thank you once again for getting up early and being available to help with the technical side. It truly is appreciated, as well as your input into the spectrum discussions and health and everything we all bring to the table. So you guys have an awesome one, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. Have a good one as well. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.